order and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Rebecca, can we have the roll call, please?
Director Underhill,
Here.
Director Ratterman,
Here.
Director Davidson,
Here.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
President Cicada.
Here. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, we're going on to item number 2, public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comment out here? Seeing none. Anything online? No public comment. All right. Let's move on to item number 3, the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Can I get a motion?
Move for acceptance.
Second. All right, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 4, new business. Proposed award of construction contract for the Copper Cove lift stations 6, 8, 15, and 18, and lift station 12 and 13 Force Main Bypass Project. Charles, hello again.
So yeah, this project's been a long time coming and glad to be able to bring it to the board for potential award of a construction contract. So we did bid it out, I believe it was the end of last month, June 30th, and had a total of 6 bids. And at that time, Sierra Mountain Construction came in with a low bid. In the staff report, I listed it as $6,776,899. That's the corrected amount. So there was a significant discrepancy in their bid, which ultimately, it was there were 2 different schedules. Schedule A was 105,000 and Schedule B was 988,000. So that number, they expected that their bid amount was around 7.2 million, but as it actually was submitted, we had to correct it, and that 6,076,000 would have been the bid amount that they would have had to honor in the contract. And it was just there was mistakes made. Ultimately, they acknowledged the mistakes, which they do have 5 days to withdraw their bid without any penalty. So that's kind of what occurred, and Mazingo was going to back that up with a bid protest on that basis. We did talk to Matt Weber, our legal counsel, about the situation, and he confirmed what we needed to do. So,
Well, ultimately, the Sierra withdrew their bid, so it's really kind of doesn't matter with that bid anymore, right? So
Correct.
that's why we're going with Mazingo.
correct.
Nice, thank you.
And
We have had, excuse me, we
Go
have
ahead.
had Sierra Mountain.
we have had them work on a project before up in West Point on the clear
I thought,
wells.
yeah.
They replaced it. They did a fine job on that work. I do appreciate the way, they worked with us through this process, and ultimately we reached agreement on what should be done. So that's appreciated.
Great.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the bid submitted by Mazingo. $7,658,400.
And
Second,
I'd like to second that.
Russ, very good.
for final vote there, I did have to mention that there's also a second portion to this resolution about the CEQA notice of exemption being filed.
And my motion includes approving the exemption for the CEQA project and filing notice of exemption with the state of Columbia.
Does that mean that it was accepted as being exempt, or we just filed it to see if we are exempt?
No, we've reached the determination that
Okay.
it is exempted, so we'll just post that.
So it's just
notice.
an NOI then?
Yeah.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
Correct.
all right. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So yeah, then after that, we will sign the document authorizing the staff to sign the document, submit it to CEQA. We'll just go ahead and file CEQA as a formality, and occasionally they may provide some feedback on it. But
Is this potentially something that could stop the job?
I
from going
don't
forward?
anticipate
Okay.
any secret issues here.
All right. Okay, so we have a first and a second. Do we have any public comment online? And
The only other thing I would add to the staff presentation is just that, we're excited to see this project move forward. As Charles mentioned, it's been a long time coming. And there will be, traffic impacts and community impacts. And so once we sit down with the contractor and figure out what the schedule is, we're going to also immediately launch into some public outreach with the impacted communities, and we'll start working with the homeowners to make sure they understand what the impacts are going to be and what the project is.
I think that's very, you be doing the public outreach, because I remember what length we went through our project.
Exactly.
Pass.
Yeah. So
And it
there'll be
was
multiple.
At times, it was absolutely terrible.
maybe
And,
we should
you
do
know,
it.
Yeah.
Those things happen, but.
Right. So we can't always avoid the impacts. We try to minimize them, but the important thing is we are out in front of them in terms of the outreach. And so that is a big part of the discussion that we're
The
working on.
community has been asking for this project or projects for a long time, right? So I imagine they're willing to put up with little inconvenience to have a nice project completed.
yeah, and
All right,
can I mention one more thing?
you may.
We did reach out to the county. They are planning on paving O'Burns Ferry Road. So I just wanted to mention that the county staff had been very cooperative in assisting us.
So they'll do it after we get done with our project?
That's what the
Nice.
plan is.
Yeah. So
I was nice to have that
Good
plan
idea.
for them of their paving calendar.
So
That's
we've
been
had
really
we've had some, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Charles, because there's a couple of different areas where we're going to have some impacts on O'Burns Ferry. And so we're working with them to make sure that we're not cutting into a freshly paved road.
Absolutely.
Right.
So make sure that's a priority, I would imagine. Anything else? Charles?
That's-
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move it along because.
Sure, absolutely. No, I'm good. Thank you.
For
No,
just.
because that's your job.
Thank you, that's right. Okay, so we have a first and a second, no public comment online. Any public comment here? Seeing none, can we get a roll
Well,
call
I
vote?
think Russ might want to say something.
I asked him, he said no.
He probably doesn't want to delay it any
Yeah.
longer.
Exactly. Go ahead, Russ.
Now he's forced to say something.
Yeah.
I'm reluctant to ask this question, but Lee and Rowe has been kind of the fly in the ointment on this thing. Are we going to be dealing with them anymore throughout the, say for instance, we find some little glitch in the design? Will they be billing us to fix something, or, what's Lee and
At
Rowe's?
this, yeah, to answer your question, Russ, at this point, I don't see us engaging very much more with Lee and Rowe on this project. So I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. I don't think there's anything, they're just a consulting firm. There's nothing, they are the engineer of record on the design. We have had some good cooperation with them in the, they made some changes in management that were very effective for the project and helped bring it to the finish line finally. But, I don't see us really needing a whole lot of help from them through the construction phase.
Okay, well, it's going to be painful if they send any more bills. So I'm going to raise holy hell about that. Well, anyway, let's have a vote.
All right, vote it is. Rebecca?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
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 And staff. All right, so item 4B, discussion action regarding side letter agreements with the SEIU and the MCU bargaining unit. Stacy, Hi, Stacy.
Hi, good afternoon. Today's agenda item is being brought to you as kind of a follow-up to the previous agenda item we had in our last board meeting. As you recall, the board approved the addition of 2 classifications to the personnel allocation. So part of that process now, we have to add those positions because they are new positions to Calaveras County Water District. We do have to add them to the respective bargaining unit wage scales. So the item before you is requesting the approval of the side letter for both the SEIU and MCU. For SEIU, we would be removing the information systems administrator classification, adding the information system technician classification and the water resources specialist classification. There was also a small little formula correction error on the customer service supervisor position that was fixed.
Can I ask a question on that particular, well, and any of them? It said it has a 0 budgetary impact, but was there an actual impact to the employee? Did they get compensated for that? And staff just planned accordingly in the budget, knowing this had happened? Or is there actually just a formula and nobody was affected by it because you caught it beforehand?
A combination of the two.
Okay, so they did get compensation of some kind.
Yeah, and we're collecting that back because it was above. And
And you're allowed.
however, the budget process and the budget form that is used is separate from the actual wage scales was correct. So the budget was correct. It was the
So-
wage scale when we added the customer service supervisor. It was a copy and paste function and everything didn't copy.
Didn't, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then lastly, for the MCU, we are adding the information system administrator classification that we removed from SEIU. And we have also taken this opportunity to increase the district engineer classification to match that, the director of operation classification. As you know, we are currently recruiting for a district engineer. And in looking at that in correlation with the director of operations classification, we proposing to match those 2 levels.
So has this ever been brought to us before? Is this now kind of being a package deal that it's being increased without us having more discussion? Is that what I
We
get
have
with the district
discussed
engineer?
it, but
We have
it's
discussed
really, it's a very small difference between the 2 right now. And we felt like it just made sense to have those 2 department head positions on par with each other. And yeah, so that was the
So we're
correction.
making this side letter include a budgetary change to the district engineer, bringing it up to match the operations.
Right. It doesn't require a change to the budget. It's just insignificant amount.
It's less than 2%.
The last sentence in the financial considerations, Stacy talks about the 0 impact because it remains open, but it's been posted. What will the impact be once it's hired? And what would that dollar amount that's, this is kind of looking at it as a point in time, but as a result of this, when everything is done and back to normal, and this is not an empty open spot or open position, is it, will it be a budget?
It'll still be, there will also be 0 impact on the budget because the budget is, the increase is less than 2%. We don't even at the highest range.
Okay,
So depending on if the district engineer comes in at the bottom of the range, middle of the range, whatever it is, it's less than 2%.
and it's included in our current budget. Okay.
Stacy, can I go back to the customer service? I want to be clear. So the error, did they receive more money than they should have and you had to get that back?
Yes.
Is that normal to do that, to pay somebody and then
If it's
get it?
an
But that's because it
overpayment.
was our error
Oh, yeah.
It's an overpayment, yeah.
Uh-huh.
and just in wages.
Right.
Right.
Everybody thinks that's normal, even though it was our fault.
You mean if they get to keep it, you think that it would be normal if they get to keep it? I think it's normal that you correct it and get it back. Make your
I'm
adjustment
just asking
whichever
what
way.
everybody else said. Was
Oh,
it-
no, no.
You know,
I'm-
'cause
I'm
I
just
mean,
answering, I
if-
think whichever
if
way
the-
it goes.
Yeah, but if the employee is looking at the wage scale and thinking that, oh, I'm supposed to get this much, and then it's like, oops, there was a formula, so you shouldn't have gotten that much, but it still stated what they should have got. And she didn't think she got overpaid because that's what the salary schedule said, or he, I guess it's a she, because that's all we have there. And I'm just saying, so let's say, okay.
Maybe she needs your
didn't-
representation to bring a grievance.
And
Well,
I'm just,
no,
because
it's-
it goes with employees, I mean, that's, you know, I want to make sure it's accurate and there was no,
It certainly wasn't the employee's fault, and that's not what we're
Right.
suggesting at all.
no,
But
and
we're
I'm not
just trying to
saying that,
Correct it, and I don't think it's a big
but sometimes,
impact.
you know, an employee will know, oh, I got paid an extra 100 hours, that's obvious, right? But if
That's a
it's,
different, then that's not what happened.
right,
Right.
I know, and
Right.
so I'm saying it's like, if the employee thinks they're supposed to get $45 an hour, because that's what the salary schedule says, and then it turns out, oops, it didn't quite roll forward, so really you should have gotten 43. In my opinion, because she or he was looking at that number and thought it was correct on her paycheck. So,
But don't you think there would have been, discussion about that? You just don't read the thing and say,
Mhm. I just, anyhow, moving on. I mean.
It was, we did discuss it with the union. So the union, so if there was any concern from the union or the employee's perspective,
How-
we would have,
How long did it go back on the employees?
there's just one pay period.
Okay, that's helpful. All right, sorry, I just want to wrap my head around it.
They didn't take it to go buy a car or something.
You know, normally I don't want to spend money, right? So in this, it was kind of backwards, but I just make sure everything's good. Sorry, okay, moving on.
And then to wrap up the MCU side letter, we are also proposing the addition of a limited eligibility exception for reinstated retirees under medical and related benefits.
and that's gonna happen to us sometime. Is that what you're saying?
Did it happen with Jeff? Is that?
And we felt that the language in the MOU prior to what were proposed, we felt like it could be interpreted that way. However, we wanted to add a section to make it, to clarify that.
And it could potentially apply to others in the future, but we felt like that if we're in a situation where somebody's willing to be reinstated out of retirement and we're seeking that, we want to provide some incentive to folks who do that. I think it'd be in our interest to do that again. So it's not, even if it were applied to other situations, I think this is something that would help us do that.
And
Because we are involved in that sort of thing with Patty Christensen, for example.
That's a
That's a
different
different-
situation. That's a retired annuitant.
So if, what this means is they just kind of get reinstated back to what they were before. So they're not getting any additional monies. It's just, we're letting them go back to where they were before when they retired.
Really,
Right.
what it does is it protects the employees so that they're not at risk of losing any of their retiree benefit by being
CalPERS.
reinstated and coming back to work
Okay.
for us, so that we're protecting the benefit that they were already entitled to.
Okay.
Do we need two motions?
Yes.
Or one motion covering both subjects?
Motions.
Okay, I'll do the first one, adopting this resolution to approve a side letter with SEIU.
Second.
All right, any public comment in here? Seeing none, any public comment online? Seeing none, can we have the roll call vote, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes,
President Cicada.
Yes.
And
And then I'd like to make the motion.
We have
Adopting
to-
the second resolution. What?
Where have I been?
I don't know, Cindy. Approving side letter to the MOU between CCWD and MCU effective July 1st through June 30th, 2026.
Second that.
Any public comment online? Seeing none, any public comment here? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Stacy. Well, what threw me off is I'm looking on my agenda, only has one resolution.
Yeah.
Anyhow, do we have a quickly to do the old business? We have somebody who just came in. Do we need to do, go to public hearing? We want to make that change or just move on?
We could stick with the order of things in the agenda,
Okay.
I think.
All right, moving on. You want us to wait for you, call a recess?
No.
Okay. All right, we're going to be moving on to item number 5, old business. Approval of variance request from the owner of 49 Cosmic Court, Copperopolis. Jessica? Is she gonna be
Good
doing that?
afternoon.
Oh, surprise. Hi.
There she is.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had to head home to take care of a sick kiddo, so. So this item is for the approval of the variance request from the owner of 49 Cosmic Court in Copperopolis. Last board meeting on July 13th, this variance item was discussed with the board and tentatively approved. And with the information that we gathered, we have compiled a resolution. And this resolution, just to quickly summarize from our conversation from the last board meeting. So for accounts A, B, for suites A, B, and C, for those accounts, those will be terminated. So suite D will become the master meter for water service for the entire building. And then with that, the wastewater will be updated to reflect the entire building demand, and that demand factor is at 2.2 EDUs.
Is the tenant aware of all these particulars and they're good? Is that
Oh, yeah,
what you
they
said?
were-
Okay.
You were here.
No, but seeing this final rescission, we kind of
Okay.
summed it up. I'm just wondering if you talked to them and they're aware of it. We're all good.
Yeah, I spoke with them after the board meeting, so they are aware.
I'll make a motion granting the variance to the water districts, to the CCWD's rules and regulations governing the furnishing of water and wastewater for this particular APN at 49 Cosmic Court in Copperopolis.
Can I get a second, Russ?
I'll second that.
All right. Do we have any public comment online? Seeing none, any public comment here in the building? Seeing none, we get a roll call vote, please.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. And we just say,
And for the record, he recused himself.
recused
at this
So we
himself.
can
We have a
let him
4-1.
back in the room now. I don't know where he is.
oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Well, he had his phone, so I thought he had a phone call.
Yeah,
Man, oh, man.
I just knew what was going on. He did the same thing. The last time it was on.
Yeah, well, he grabbed like I thought he had an important phone call.
He has a relationship with
Yeah, yeah.
the
I know it
landlord
now
at
when you
some
said
point.
recuse, I could hear that, but again, I guess I need hearing aids and stuff, so.
No, he didn't say it. He just got up and left.
Well, that's what I thought he had a phone call for.
But that's
Okay.
Jeff.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, just it looked like he had that up to his ear. Okay. All right, now let's go into, let's open our public hearing regarding amendments to Eastside GSA Memorandum of Understanding and Groundwater Sustainability Plan, and we have.
Yeah, thank you. And has the public hearing been open for it? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. And good afternoon, directors. We're gonna have a couple items we're gonna be discussing here. The first one of them is an amendment to the Eastside Groundwater Sustainability Agency, or Eastside GSA restated MOU. That's essentially been the governing document that we currently have that binds us, Calaveras County, Stanislaus County, and Rock Creek Water together, Rock Creek Water District rather, together as the Eastside GSA with the authorities under Sigma. This amendment is needed to address the requirements of the March executive order. Recall in a prior board meeting, we talked about the well permitting, both for new and amended, that are above the de minimis 2 acre feet pumped in a year, that need to be reviewed for consistency with applicable groundwater sustainability plans. So that is to say that a big commercial pumper, a new or altered well permit that would go to the county, who would ultimately make the decision as to whether or not to grant the well permit, would at least first need to come to the GSA to opine as to whether or not that is consistent with the groundwater sustainability plan for those wells in the eastern San Joaquin subbasin, northwestern part of the county. This amendment would formalize what's called a technical advisory committee within the GSA, each having one member from the 4 participating agencies that would be tasked with reviewing these well permit applications and then ultimately providing that decision. I think shown in attachment B here with the agenda packet, just a checkbox exercise to see whether or not the individual well permits are, reasonable and consistent with the GSP. I will say that this is a fairly, at least easy structure, given the MOU conditions that we have currently of being able to at least meet that guideline and allow wells in Calaveras and the portion of Stanislaus County to move forward with their permit applications. The second item we have before you here is the larger of the two. It's the Groundwater Sustainability Plan GSP amendments themselves. We've been working with the Groundwater Authority that represents the 7 GSAs of the Eastern San Joaquin Subbasin to put together 4 technical memorandums and an updated executive summary that captures and responds to DWR's comments that they provided in January following their 2-year review of the GSP that was submitted in 2020. Just to update things like drinking and shallow well requirements. They had some additional questions on that. Some land subsidence and groundwater quality issues with the original GSP that were updated with these technical memorandums that were included in attachment C of this agenda item. It's worth noting that as of today, all the other members of the GSA have approved this document, and it is due to DWR by the 27th of July today. So we are cutting it close, right on the deadline there. And I will point out lastly with that as a GSA, we did put together comments with the technical memos that were sent out to the authority. Unfortunately, they were not incorporated. I make mention of that in here, but we are still recommending approval of the document. Those comments were not substantive towards the findings that responded to DWR's comments. They were really just more to clarify, our supplies in New Hogan, for instance. There are some projects I'd want to point out that the subbasin's looking at that would ultimately use CCWD supply of water in New Hogan that's not currently being utilized by the district. Things we need to look out for going forward. We're working, myself, Michael, and others, to put together some projects in county that'll try and make use of that water that benefit the basin as well, but then allow CCWD to capture the benefit of that water in New Hogan. So just something to point out to you all that approving this today does not change the fact that it is our contractual supply in New Hogan, even though other districts are, Stockton East primarily, are aiming to potentially utilize that for their own in-basin project action.
Now, if they include that in their plan, and they're in Stockton East is in a different GSA than us.
Yeah.
If they include that idea in their plan, as far as using that excess water that flows through and we don't use currently, and they're using it for groundwater recharge, for example, as part of their plan,
Mhm.
or are they already, isn't that what's said in here, that that is part of their plan is to use that water? How do we get it back?
Well, and that's why I wanted to point that out here, is just to clarify first, we are under the same plan. They're both within the authority and same basin as well. So this plan that they've laid out for this project action is what's before you today and was already approved by the board back in 2020 when it was submitted. That hasn't changed. I wanted to at least make that mention here today that it does not change the contractual basis that it is our water in Hogan, and that when we go to use it for our in-county beneficial purposes, it doesn't matter what the GSP says, it's still our water from a contractual right with the Bureau of Reclamation. And so we just want to acknowledge that and at least make it clear to the folks that we acknowledge this is in the GSP.
If they're using our water, as you say,
Mhm.
can we sell it to them? Can we gain some, I mean, if it's part of their GSP and they do start to use it, it starts getting,
Mhm.
started being used for recharge as part of their plan.
Mhm.
We're in different, we're not, we're in the same GSA, but in different GS.
Same GSP, different GSA. So same.
You can't export. water. It has to be used.
Right.
If we could get Stockton East to develop a project that puts the water in Calaveras County.
Right.
And it would still have a beneficial use to them, you know.
But they're entitled to the water once it leaves
after,
Calaveras County.
Okay, so it would only be in county that we would be negotiating with them to
sell.
Well, I will say, we are exploring, Michael, myself, and our general counsel, as to options with that New Hogan water going forward. More to follow on that as we start to put some sort of ideas and concepts together on there. But I will say one that we're aiming at and really want to have ready for the 5-year GSP update is some sort of use near Wallace Person to try and help out groundwater conditions there. We know we've got a lot of domestic well owners. We've got this new Hogan water we're already paying for. If we can get it in the ground in a way that benefits the domestic well owners there, that benefits the basin as a whole, there's probably grant funds to be, obtained with something like that. So we're really studying and trying to nail down some of these concepts, and we'll bring more back to you as we have that available. For the purposes of today, I just wanted to point out that it's not consequential to what you are approving, what our responses are to DWR.
I know, I was thought it was a good time to talk about it.
No, and that's great, but we will bring more back, I believe, to follow in coming board meetings here on that.
Well, that, just to talk about that scenario versus Wallace, when I first got on the board, we were discussing
Yeah.
the fact of, trying to make a loop out of that system, and that, that would be terrific if we could loop that, down to Person, Wallace, and then back up Highway 12 into Valley Springs, then we could probably utilize the majority of our water. But again, it's pretty cost prohibitive. I mean, that's a very, very expensive project.
It is absolutely, and that's why grant funds are going to be critical to that. But I want to actually just step back to the governor's executive order, and unless Michael stops me, that's a little off track here, but there is CEQA exemptions currently available under that order for recharge projects that benefit groundwater conjunctive use projects. So now is the time to try and capitalize on all the drought funds made available, on all the assistance grants made available to domestic well owners, these CEQA exemptions we're seeing in the EO. Can we try and get something together that even fits within Sigma here that we can try and push forward? But you're absolutely right. It's not going to be cheap.
Well, and also, I forgot to look for that article that I was telling you I had regarding what was East Bay and which San Joaquin,
North San Joaquin.
North San Joaquin. But I was thinking more the McCollum water for that.
Right. We're taking a look at how to put together a pretty robust conjunctive use program down there, and what projects can go into it and where we can, take advantage of those opportunities.
Are you taking that on, the two of you is, you
And
studying?
and the person to be named later.
Yes, and the FTE that you all approved, thank you, by the way. That's going to be one of their first tasks, rather, is looking through what I found in the library that were some 19 plus documents going back to the early 2000s, looking at these programs, exactly to your point, Director Davidson, of what can we do in Wallace Person with groundwater and conjunctive use. I want to bring that all together, do a literature review, figure out what did those say, what were the conclusions of those documents, why to date haven't we done something like that? If it was as much of a slam dunk as I hope it is, why isn't that already been, developed? See if we can pull that together and then work through some of these planning grant funds potentially with NV5 folks we work with there on groundwater monitoring, and try and push this forward potentially. So more to follow.
And I suspect a lot of the reason why that didn't move forward before is because they are very expensive projects. But there may be new opportunities out there to move them forward. So we want to take advantage of that.
Are they a DAC community, Person and Wallace, I would imagine, but I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Brad, does our current GSP or the plan for our particular GSA with the 4 members, does it include any groundwater recharge for using any of our water?
Well, again, to mention the GSP that we've got that covers the whole sub-basin includes Stockton East Group.
No,
includes
not,
us, but-
do we have another, is there another separate plan within just our GSA? No.
Right. Not at this point, no. That's what we're working on to get ready
Okay.
for the 5-year.
When it is included, I know there's a timeline that we have to have that done for our GSA. Will it include any of our excess water rights
Well,
for
it's not a
groundwater
separate
recharge?
plan for our GSA. Our GSA signed on to the groundwater sustainability plan for the whole basin that all 17 GSAs have signed on to. So we're not developing a separate groundwater sustainability plan. What we're talking about is a conjunctive use program where we can take advantage of opportunities to address the shortfalls that were identified in the GSP and figure out where we can maximize the beneficial use of our resources. So that would be probably, primarily a CCWD effort that the GSA will benefit from, but it would be a CCWD.
So the 17
Conjunctive use
GSAs
program.
is called the GWA?
That's the groundwater authority.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
there's
the
many.
17 GSAs make up the GWA,
GWA.
and the GWA's plan, GSP, does include groundwater recharge, obviously conjunctive use of some sort. Does any of it include coming from CCWD?
No, not currently,
Specifically.
but that's what Brad's talking about is once we develop our, sorry, Brad.
No, it's fine. I just want
Once
to
we
clear.
develop our
Okay.
plan, though, those projects can be incorporated into the GSP.
There's just too many moving parts right now.
There's too many Gs.
Yeah, and just to
But it can be
clarify,
incorporated into the GSP for the whole basin.
Okay.
sorry, and just to clarify, that plan does include Stockton East Water District's
Yeah.
use of the unused excess Hogan.
Ah.
Right.
That's septic.
And one other, you almost nailed it, but one other clarification is the GWA itself is not actually a signatory to the plan. It's the GWA is the Joint Powers Authority that we all joined to facilitate the development of the plan, but the GSA members are the ones that had to actually approve the plan and not approve the update to the plan.
The 17 separate GSAs all had to approve the same plan?
Right.
Okay.
So when we got, a few years ago, when we got sued on the plan, the GWA, even though the GWA is the one that was the primary author, they're no longer named in the litigation because they're not a signatory to the GSP. It's the GSAs that are the ones that adopt the GSP.
Yes, I get it.
All
That's
right.
quite a little bit, yeah.
And then I just have one more comment. This could be kind of simplistic, but we're now called the East Side San Joaquin Groundwater Management Agency. And so,
Yeah, sorry, I saw that. I noted that reference in the title. That was the original MOU reference that came when the GSA was formed back in 2017. Somewhere along the way, that title eventually moved into GSA per Sigma. That was a term that was being used under Sigma itself. The reason we reference that as the title in the document that you would approve here today is just to maintain consistency with the original MOU document. Is all.
okay, so it doesn't mean that we're doing something new.
No, it's the
No.
GSA. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last point, just to reference on here, those were the two major adoptions today, the GSP amendment materials and the MOU amendment. But the last point I made under the key items on the agenda memo is just to mention that we are moving forward as an update with the implementation phases of Sigma. We're working with the GWA, that authority group, to try and model and analyze our sub-basin conditions and to better understand what our obligations are going forward. I will give the heads up that there's a lot happening in terms of our area is quite large and includes portions going all the way down to basically the Stanislaus River near Knights Ferry under the current GSA structure. I would point out that attachment E in there shows a map of the areas within Stanislaus and Calaveras County. What it also shows are a couple pie charts in there, which are somewhat eye-opening, that look at land use and groundwater consumption. Some 94% of the groundwater consumption in our GSA is Stanislaus County, not Calaveras County. And therefore, the obligations as we go forward under Sigma in terms of what we need to do with recharge or groundwater user curtailments or things that way are probably going to have to reflect that disparity. How that happens, we don't quite know yet. We're working through that, but this was just an update provided for you all that there are projects being contemplated down in that area. Three Fall Ranch Reservoir project's a good one. If you want, I can kind of explain, provide an overview more of that. But otherwise, we're struggling a bit with how do we deal with these well permitting requirements? How do we deal with multi-county jurisdictions and authorities, land use implications of how we move forward under Sigma? There's a lot happening in the background that we're really trying to pull together. For today, it's just the amended GSP and the MOU amendment, but in the future, there's certainly going to be more to come on the GSA side.
You looking for a motion?
Not yet. We're in a public hearing, right? So I need to open it up for public comment. Okay, so before the vote. So yes, have a motion. Sorry, trying.
Two separate, well, I'll do them separate. I make a motion executing the first amendment to the first amended and restated memorandum of understanding for implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act in the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Basin by supporting formulation of the East Side San Joaquin Groundwater Management Agency.
All right, so now we are open for public comment, correct? Thank you. Is there any public comment online? And seeing none here in the office, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Did we get a second on?
Oh, wait, we got to close the meeting. But how,
I said.
yeah. But aren't we supposed to close a public hearing before the vote? But what about the second resolution?
Have to get a motion for that.
So let's get two motions on the floor before we close.
Russ, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can make, well, procedurally, do you want to have two motions?
No,
approved
and so, hold on, let me jump in here. We only need the public hearing on the GSP update.
Correct.
We don't need a public hearing and on
For the
the
second.
MOU. So we should just, coming out of the, well, before we close the public hearing, we should just be voting on, or when we close the public hearing, we should just be voting on the GSP update.
And that's the first one that Scott did. So there's no public comments, so I can close. I can close it now. Is that correct? And then we vote. Is that the way I'm doing it? Somebody tell me. Michael, is that what I'm gonna do?
Yes.
All right, so
The public hearing is for the second item listed here, accepting the amendment to the groundwater
So
sustainability.
not the
plan.
motion we currently have.
The motion currently was for the First Amendment. Yeah, not for that one, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
yeah,
where
we
are we
can say all
going,
that.
folks?
So let's table that motion.
Okay.
And then we need a motion and a second for
That was Russ.
Russ, you want to do that one?
GSP
Yeah.
update.
Yeah, I would like to move that we adopt resolution number 2022 dash, whatever it's going to be,
86.
86, accepting the amendment to the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan.
And I'll second.
all right. Any
Now-
public
Yeah,
comment?
okay, and then we close. right?
Seeing none, is that correct? None online, none in here. All right, let's close the public hearing and take the vote, please.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes,
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes,
President Cicada.
Yes. So
And
now we
can
need to go.
revisit the motion.
Yeah,
the
so
motion
let's
second for
revisit.
the-
Scott, you want to make a motion on the
gonna-
First Amendment?
yes, ditto to what I said earlier is my motion.
And Jeff, that was a second, or Russ? Jeff was a second on that?
Yes.
All
And you can
right.
still take public comment on
Any
that motion
public
separately,
comment?
even though we're outside of the public hearing.
Seeing none, can we have the roll call vote, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes,
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. Well, that was kind of a
Perfect.
tough. Want to
No,
have
that was
everybody a
good.
little bit
That's
kind of.
great. Nice.
good job,
All right,
Cindy.
perfect. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All
Brad.
right.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, one of these days I'll get it.
No, that was good. That was good.
All right, let's move on to item number 7, reports for the general manager. You're
Wow,
on,
we are-
Michael.
Blazing right through it.
I know.
Let me
Jeff
slow
Michael
this
Brown.
down. Let me slow this down with some GM reports.
No.
I'd like to jump in here for a second.
We got to put a,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Director.
Michael, are you going to start with reporting about the meeting that you attended this morning?
I wasn't going to start with that, but it is in my report. But so go ahead. Yeah, we can start with that.
Well, I
If you
think
wanna-
it's a segue from what we just approved, that if the progress you made today results in Stanislaus County becoming a little bit more realistic about your proposal that we ought to simplify the governance of that particular GSA, GSP area to take into account the disproportional pumping that they're doing versus what we're doing. But anyway, I think that in the future, when that happens, I'm confident that it will, that it's going to simplify our understanding of this, or our ability to understand it, because we won't have so many moving parts. There'll be fewer moving parts, and we'll be in control of the ones that we can control.
So yeah, I'm not planning to get into a great deal of detail. We can agendize it, and it certainly will be coming back to the board. But the meeting that Director Thomas is talking about, Brad and I went to this morning, is a meeting of the Water Advisory Committee in the Stanislaus County of the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors. And there's I didn't get all of the different member agencies that participate in that, but OID and TID and SSJ, all the IDs that are down there, in addition to Stanislaus County. And we have been in discussions within the Eastside GSA, among the members of the Eastside GSA, about some of the governance challenges that we face being a multi-county GSA. We wanted to make sure that we were raising those issues to the appropriate decision maker, level in Stanislaus County. And while we didn't resolve any of those issues today, to Brad's great frustration, we did get, I think, a commitment from Stanislaus County to engage, in having those discussions so we can resolve it one way or another moving forward. We'll have one of them, one of the supervisors here at our next meeting, in addition to some of their staff. So I think definitely made positive progress today. And the next couple of GSA meetings should really kind of determine the course that we're going to go. And that will certainly be coming back to this board in detail.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's kind of been my theme for the last week, is a lot of windshield time. I had so that was our meeting this morning was down in Modesto. Monday it was in Roseville with Director Davidson and Director Ratterman. Very productive meeting. We had a full hour-long meeting with Congressman McClintock, where we covered a fairly broad range of issues. Obviously, our focus is on the Section 219 funding for Copper Cove wastewater infrastructure. The thanking him was a big part of the visit, to thank him for his support for the $1 million that we've already received for the tertiary filter replacement, and then giving him an update and his staff an update so that they're prepared to help us as we move forward, and bringing back even more is our hope for the Pond 6 dam raise project. And they're 100% on board, 100% supportive. We got very, very enthusiastic support, even I would say, for and a commitment to continue to support us in that project. So really positive meeting. We also talked quite a bit about wildfire and forest management issues, and the update on the electrifier, and some of the work that UMRA is doing. And that's one of my other items here, is UMRA has just received a $5 million grant from CAL FIRE for planning and environmental, but also some actual forest management work for over 200,000 acres. So it's a huge, huge project that is just fantastic. That's kind of the scale we need to be attacking this issue on.
Michael, can I ask real quick on McClintock? Did you meet with him, and how much time does he give you guys to meet with him?
We had almost a full hour with him, with his chief of staff, Rocky Deal, and his public affairs.
Kimberly, can't remember her last name.
I'm going to blank on her last name at the moment. But they were also very clear, because we've had a few meetings with him scheduled to come down here a couple of different times that have had to be postponed or canceled for various reasons. And they were clear that the meeting on Monday did not replace that. They still want to get out here. We also talked to them about the CHIPS project in Wilseyville. They were very interested to hear about that and about all the work that we have. Not only copper, but development that's going on in Valley Springs. So I think hopefully we piqued their interest on enough of the projects that we have going on that we'll be seeing them down here before too long.
And all three of them said they wanted to come to Calaveras County, and they brought it up. Rocky is the one who said, and by the way, I know you guys have been wanting us to get up there to the Copper Cove plant, and that this meeting does not take its place, that we're still planning on coming up.
What about inviting them to the 75th birthday party?
I brought that up as well. Yeah. So we made a plug for that. And if the timing works out, I think that would be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
But it was an hour. They started looking at their clocks, and didn't even start looking at their clocks till 50 minutes in. And
Not
then,
bad.
they did close a couple of them closed Rocky closed his.
They have to
number.
stay on.
No, we just sat there and talked for, it was a full hour.
And they gave us some, I think another really beneficial part of it is they gave us some really good insight on, because they're pretty well connected to the Army Corps District Office, the SAC region office.
right.
And that's the office we're going to be working directly with and managing these projects. And they know all the players there, and gave us some good insights on those, on that team. So it was a really productive.
Well,
meeting.
Very good.
Rocky has been here before by himself.
Oh yeah, and Rocky's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
his chief of staff for a long time,
Uh-huh,
and he's a
Well, anyway, I thank Jeff for taking time out of his schedule to go. And so I thank you, Mr. Ratterman. That was, to go up to Roseville and on a Monday, that was great for you
Yeah.
guys to do that.
very productive.
Yeah, I think it was very productive.
Continuing the road trip theme, yesterday was a very positive meeting up in West Point with Travis and Matt from CPUD, and we visited a couple of different of their sites and our sites and had some discussions about how we're cooperating up there. And then the afternoon was down in Copper and some site meetings with PG&E and the Poker Flat HOA to talk about how the service line replacement project is going to proceed down there because we have that common trench issue with PG&E. So there's some major safety concerns, and there's there's going to be a lot of, I think it was a productive meeting in kind of getting all the issues on the table, getting the right people there, and then, but we still have a lot of work to do in terms of how that project's going to proceed. And the HOA was there and is, we're coordinating directly with them to make sure they have a say on, how the project proceeds and the timing and the sequence of events. But a lot of it's going to be there'll be a lot more discussion with PG&E on that project. There was last Friday, I think it was, man, it's all blending together. Another site visit, productive meeting with Hugh Logan and Jack Scroggs, who are that's the project team for the Jenny Lind Elementary School force main. And so Charles and Damon and Pat and I went down there and met with them. I had a good meeting, and there were some issues we needed to resolve with them, but I think we did, and we're moving the project forward. And that's one where I've also reached out to Mark Campbell, the superintendent. The school is really the one that is the grantee and the proponent of the project. And as fellow public agencies, I want to make sure we have a good open line of communication with them. And I think we do. And that project is still, I think we're maybe at 30% design, so it's still got a ways to go in design, and we've got to identify some property issues we're working through. But so it's still a ways out, but it's definitely it's a bit of a complicated project. So we just want to make sure we have really good communication between the parties from the get-go, so that as issues arise, we're able to resolve them productively. So that was a positive meeting. We're very close to the end of the AMI project, and then we ran into a hiccup at the end.
What?
So there's a delay in getting the billing out for cycle 1 for Downcountry and West Point. So it should be out definitely by the end of this week, hopefully tomorrow, I think is the hope.
Is it delay with Tyler or the meters?
No, the issue was with AMI, with the interface between Mueller and our billing software. So our staff have been just phenomenal in putting in a lot of extra work to resolve the issues. And so it did cause some delay this time, and I hope that it's the last time where we have to deal with this.
Do you notify the customers when this happens?
That's,
Because
So-
perhaps you could notify them and say, pay your base rate, and instead of getting billed twice or something.
They won't be
Yeah.
billed twice. There won't be any late penalties, and we're, I think, there's just a week delay in when it actually all gets sent out. So
because I heard just recently, within the last week, about a problem that we had in billing, having a customer being double billed, 2 separate bills. And so, of course, we credited her for the overpayment, but still, we were having problems in the beginning, and now at the end, we're still having problems.
yeah, it's still, the project's not complete yet, and there are still some issues to be resolved, and we're working through them. Let's see, I think we already mentioned the UMRA meeting. We are looking forward to, hopefully everybody's able to make it to the NCPA barbecue this evening. And then we've also got, we'll have, we're in the final stages, I think, of finalizing an agreement with firm called IB Consulting for our rate study. So we went through a pretty extensive vetting process. And our team that reviewed proposals. We actually did a couple of rounds of interviews with the rate setting consultants. IB Consulting is a small firm, but they are all broken off from Raftellus. I'm sure you're all familiar with. Raftellus is a much bigger firm, and they were one of our finalists as well. All really good proposals and really good finalists, and staff. In the end, we agreed to go with IB Consulting, so we're finalizing that agreement.
What made it so unique? Well,
yeah, I'm reluctant to go there because I don't want to make it sound like we're beating up the others, because
Well, no.
I've said they were all very competitive. They were all very good. I think we were just really impressed with IB's, not just their qualifications, but their approach and their commitment to collaboration with not just staff, but with the board, and helping us with on the public outreach side. Their technical skill and know-how is really impressive. And just their responses and how we interacted during the interview process. So just I think, really positive experience in going through the process with them.
So my question to you is, what was the price range for these?
They were all pretty close. In the end, this one came out right at 99,000. The budget, I think we had 120, 110 in the budget. So it's within budget. That's why I'm mentioning it here as opposed to a contract approval. But I
And
wanted to.
how many times are the board going to be able to sit with the group and be part of the study session, whatever you call it, because that's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's essential. And that's one of the things we talked to them about is early in the process, making sure that they give a presentation to the board to introduce themselves and hear from the board what, the direction is. And
I want that
priorities are
to
in
be
terms of-
required, you
It
know.
is. Yeah, that's a part of the
Okay.
package.
And I don't know if anybody else wants to ask questions. I have not been involved in a rate study like this, so I have a lot of questions.
And we told them that's got to be early on, and we want to get input from the board from the get-go, so that we're not, we don't want to go down a path and then get, have to change course because we didn't consult with the board early enough. So that will be an important part of the process.
will they be on-prem at any time?
Yeah, we'll have them out here. Absolutely.
Do you folks want to just have like a study session when we meet with them, or do you want some kind of a committee and not everybody be there?
Oh, well, I think we all have to. be
Yeah, I
there.
think it's important the whole board gets to.
Well, I just know,
Yeah.
because I haven't been part of it. You all may have, and maybe thinking, why do I want, they know what they're doing kind of a thing. So if you all want to be here, that's awesome. It probably should be, but if anybody
Yeah.
didn't want to, we could maybe go into
That's,
that option if anybody didn't want to.
in other rate studies, that's what we have done.
Okay.
I think it's important to get the whole board, input from the whole board at
Perfect.
the same time, so everybody's on the same page.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jeff.
As Jeff and Bertha knows, and Scott as well, this will be my third rate study with the district. And I've worked very closely with the past boards, and that's the whole job about doing this. So to be very transparent, by the time we're done, between meetings with the board and outreach with the public and the different meetings, we're gonna have at least 18 to 20 meetings where you and everybody else will be brought up to speed with what's going on. Initially, a lot of this is just data collection.
But see, that's one of my biggest questions. I want to know what data they're collecting.
Oh, you're gonna see everything, all the steps along the way, but it's, the initial 2 months is really dry. It's really them reaching out to us mining the data. We're gonna go back, sit through in the last 3 to 5 years, look for a representative year of flows and consumption and go through all that. And then we'll be bringing everything up to the board. I've done, like I said, I've done this is my third one here. I did one with Folsom. They are a challenge at times, and there's a lot of requirements, a lot of outreach, but I've learned never to prejudge what the outcome's gonna be. And we have iterative steps along the way, and every step along the way, we will involve the board, and you're open to ask the vendor, IB consultants, myself, anybody, any detailed questions you want. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, I'm really, I really want to know about what data they choose. I want to see what it is. That's just really important to me, because I don't want to do any rate increases or anything. So I know that's just my opinion. I'm telling
No,
you.
I understand. That's what I said. I don't go into these with any opinion whatsoever. It's collection of the data, collection of the numbers, and let the process work its way through. And then it'll tell us if we're meeting our revenue.
But if the data is garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And that's
There's
why I
no
want to
garbage
find
in,
out.
garbage-
I just want to know
Yes.
what information they're picking.
Okay, let's
Stop it,
move on with the
Bertha.
general manager's
And,
report.
We are absolutely going to
And-
provide that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
have you ever done a rate study and not raised the rates in the last 3 rate studies?
We haven't raised rates in certain areas. We remember the last time or go around,
Right.
remember we're split into 2 types of rates.
Mm-hmm.
The operations rates and the R&R rates.
Yeah, we
In
haven't done that.
2013, we didn't raise the operations rate.
Okay, what about just the base rate? They're monthly without any CIP. Has that ever not been raised?
I have not,
We've actually canceled rate increases.
we canceled rate increase.
When? What year?
2015, I think. it was.
Yeah, we did the first 2.
Okay.
The rate hearing
I
was in
just-
2013 and we did the first 2. And it wasn't going to be a 5th year increase anyway. And then we ended up canceling. So we
Nine.
did 13
Okay.
and 14. It was 15 and
Because you read-
16. We
yeah.
canceled.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring back very detailed agenda items on this. I was just giving you a heads up that
Okay.
we're completing the contract and we'll have the consultant on board and they already know that's going to be
Well, maybe we should have discussion action on anything that you bring up in your performance. Cover our bases. Anyhow, thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then just, last,
Excuse me.
With the general manager.
Yes.
lastly,
No, it's
I
done.
think we've already pulled the board, hopefully. I don't know if we've received responses from everybody else or not, but we're tentatively shooting for an August 25th CCWD birthday party. And so if that works for everybody, we'll get the party planning in the works. And I've already put the party planners on notice that NCPA's barbecue is today and ours has to be better because there will be some overlap in attendance and we won't be overshadowed. So
August
Wow.
25th. And, yeah,
that was all I have.
thank you. All right. Let's do board reports, information and future agenda items. Let's start with Russ since he's online. Is that okay, Russ?
Certainly. Hopefully this will be the last meeting that I'll be attending remotely for a long, long time. I have my final treatment tomorrow morning and I'll be on the road almost immediately after that. So I'll be home back in Calaveras County this weekend. So I'll give you fair warning that I'm coming back.
Yay.
And we're ready for you.
It looks like they didn't hurt you any, so that's a good thing.
No, everything's fine. Gloria finally got back on Monday and so she's taking charge as usual. So
Hi, Gloria.
she's outside doing some reading of her own. But anyway, I just wish that you had missed me more. You're handling things very well in my absence. So good job.
Nice.
I
Good
just
job,
want to make
everybody.
sure that you stay as relaxed.
As
Remember, I
relaxed.
told you how relaxed you look
Yeah, he does.
in Arizona. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Is
Big,
that it?
it's a huge change in the weather here. It's been 110, 12, 13 degrees, and today it's about 80, well, no, about 90 degrees today. So,
Oh,
Well, I was hoping you didn't stick her out there in the heat.
Well, speaking of weather, Director Thomas, I should have led my report off with the rain that we got here this week. I had to use my windshield wipers this week,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Yesterday, woke up.
We
to
got a
rain.
little bit of rain.
well,
We even had some raindrops. Brad and I got some raindrops on the windshield on our way back from Modesto today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, hopefully it's helping with fire, right? I doubt it, but
so,
Hopefully, yeah. but
so does that mean the drought's over?
yeah.
We canceled
sure.
it.
Canceled it?
All right.
Right.
Thank you, Russ. Let's go to Bertha.
okay. We had a everything's pretty calm up the hill. We're just busy with tourists. You know what that means? It means a lot of water consumption and everything because they want to go swimming and
We're
do whatever. Had a wonderful, wonderful classic car show out at White Pines Park. And they had 130 cars up there. And White Pines Park is just so pristine. A wonderful venue and everybody loved it and they'll be back next year, which is a big boost to the economy up there. So that's all I have.
Nice.
Mhm.
This would be nice. Scott, what about you?
Okay, I attended the Aqua DC conference a couple weeks ago, July 11th through the 15th, and actually had a chance to meet with Mia and Kyle from McClintock's office, and we discussed a lot of the same stuff that we discussed on Monday. But yeah, one of the things that McClintock did indicate on Monday is that we thanked him for making timely phone calls and timely letters when it was needed to get that $1 million funding. And now we got the $1 million, and he's pledged that he's going to be doing the same thing do phone calls and letters to help us get the additional 10 million that we need to fund the rest of that project. We have a legal affairs meeting next week, I think on August 4th. And then that same evening, Mountain County is having a reception in Marysville. And we have, that'll be on the evening of August 4th at a place called Tracy's in Marysville. All of you are invited if you'd like to attend. And then the following morning, we have our regular Mountain Counties meeting just down the road in Wheatland. And followed by we're putting together a strategic plan. So it's not going to be nearly as comprehensive. We're looking for a 4 or 5 page strategic plan for Mountain Counties. I asked to get a copy of ours to share with everybody. Ours is again a lot more comprehensive. But thank you for getting me. All I had was and you guys might have had the same thing, a draft. I hadn't received, it was stamped draft, but now we got the final out. That's all I got.
Thank you, Scott. Jeff? Okay, I want to report for the T-Stand IRWM. We did a field trip out to Jamestown Sanitary District, their new plant, a really nice looking plant out there. They're tertiary, but DWR only allowed them to go to 30% because they only have 800 customers and the customers can't afford it. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. And what I understand, I could get some of it wrong. Maybe Brad would fix it if he but Jamestown kind of piggybacks with TUD, and TUD is going full tertiary in somewhere, so it's going to affect Jamestown to do the same as something.
And how many customers?
800.
Oh,
that's what Patty said.
Oh, okay.
But it was so nice to see a beautiful brand new plant, asphalt everywhere, drying beds, and just everything clean. And the they put their office building out there too. They used to be downtown Jamestown. And it was a really nice field trip, and I got to meet with some of the board members. So that was really nice.
Clean? They were clean, you think?
Well, everything's brand new. It's real clean. No, really, because they'd only been
They're drying
they've
beds.
been there, No, but we didn't go right by the drying beds. But I'm just saying, like, everything was brand new. You should see the bathroom. There's, 2 different staff bathrooms included, but, way bigger, it's like the size of a bedroom with nice showers. Yeah. I called my guys when I get out, I go, hey, do you guys have a shower out of the plant? Because, you could see that they could be helpful at times, working around sewer and whatnot.
You think?
But it was really a cool little field trip. And then, I guess that's it for right now. That's it. Okay, so let's move on to, actually, this is my time to say what I want for next agenda items. So I would like to recommend, at some point in the strategic plan, since we just got it put on our, not for updates to the plan, but I'd be curious if you could say, at some of our goals, what we've achieved, if we've achieved any of
absolutely.
those, maybe.
Yep.
No, I noticed Mr. Arnold put in his report to us on his item today.
Yeah,
he
you're going to see
included a
more of that.
reference.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case,
No, but
make
I
sure
think
to
that-
highlight that.
Absolutely,
Just to
but I
make
think-
sure that it isn't just a, something we put together and it
Right.
goes over here.
It hangs on our
Yeah.
wall behind
Right,
us.
right.
And
No, that's
speaking
a
of
good point.
hanging on the wall, are we gonna be able to get some kind of a map over here that shows our district and where certain treatment plants are? I want to see like, because you guys always call them a certain name and I'm like, huh, what? You know what I mean?
Huckleberry, right?
Yeah, that's probably one of them. But especially right here close to me, because I don't see very well, would be awesome, but I could always get up and look. But it's a big blank wall, so it's like a perfect spot. So that would be awesome if we could get something like that at some
When
point.
Scott is president, we can move it over here.
Yeah.
No, then I can't see, then I gotta sit over there. Anyhow, and then I do want to talk, but I think I'll go a little bit more offline with a couple of you individual. I'd like to talk about some kind of project reviews of how things turned out, how did it come out? Could we have done things better going forward, and certain things. And two projects that come to mind are the meter reads and the Tyler change. So I think I'll just see if that's something we could do later, but I won't do it today. And Michael, another thing that I'd like to have brought back to the board, maybe sooner than later, I want to review our policy on staff and board members being able to have some kind of interaction type conversations. I know there's a company policy that has some restrictions, so I'd like that policy brought back, agendized for review in case we want to do some updates on it.
The only policy actually doesn't have any restrictions. But we can bring it back and have that discussion.
Well, if there's no restrictions, if I wanted to go talk with Brad, I can do so.
That's.
I know
there's
we're
no
supposed to work with
policy-
you.
There's no policy
ideally.
that you would violate by doing that.
But that's not the rule of the director.
There are other issues there, but there's no policy specifically.
And what about if a staff member wanted to talk to a board member? What's the rule on that? If any
It's
staff
not a-
member
it's
felt
not
that
a
they,
policy violation.
okay, so they can. So I don't have any particular policy that I should be looking at. There's no company policy that says it refrains from doing that. I mean, ideally, we want to work with you and I get that. But,
There is
We can-
some guidance in this pamphlet put in front of you, and it actually describes in detail the role of a board member, the role of a general manager, and the role of staff.
yeah,
That's.
I'm very well aware of it and it just
Okay.
really kind of pisses me off every time you guys say that because it makes me feel like you think I don't know that. I believe,
You obviously
We-
don't follow it.
no, that's not true.
Yes, it is true. I mean, that's the reason I brought it up. That's the reason this is sitting in front of you today.
Interesting. Well, it does say that we're not supposed to be involved with day-to-day operations, but if,
What are projects? Well, you're talking about the AMR project.
what
and
is
you- and
wrong
wanting to
with
get into the
asking
details.
staff and management to bring something back to the board that says, here's the areas that we identified as an issue. Here's where we did good, here's where we didn't do good, and here's what we could do going forward. I
So
don't like that.
in
just
a
sitting back,
board
but-
meeting, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And we generally do that in the engineering committee at times for certain projects. And so that's just, I think the ideally there, we're going through the proper channels to do that. But having that discussion about, if there's questions about how a project's playing out, then yeah, we can absolutely have that discussion. And if you need additional information that I can't provide for you, I can make sure that we bring
Well,
it back to you.
At this point in time, I kind of don't like where this has all gone, so I will work with you on anything that I'd like to be brought on the agenda and
Okay.
work with some of these folks individually so I can see about if it's something that they agree with me or not. And there's 5 of us, not just me. So, anyhow, there we go. Next meetings, Wednesday, August 10th, 1 o'clock, and Wednesday, August 24th. We're now going to go into closed session. We have conference with real property negotiators, property at West Point, and agency negotiators are Michael Minkler. Do we have any public comment on the closed session items? None online and none here. All right, let's go into closed session. Do you want to recess first, anybody? Good to go? Okay, let's go.
I'm ready to go.
Rock and roll. Let's get Rebecca to dial us in.